Top 5 fits for Colorado. Not as easy, maybe, as since you know who Wisconsin wants. And if not, who the fans want, and then a couple other guys. But this one, was a little bit tougher because they're Wisconsin's not necessarily in a bad spot. Like, they can make the right hire and pivot back to who they were pretty quickly, I would think. But Colorado is just a shell of their former selves. And, this was a team that's won conference. They won the Big 12 in 2001. I know 1990 was the championship, but they won conference titles. They've done things, but the Pac-12 has been a house of horrors for them.
That's true, Paul. I was also in high school when they last won that. So, it's been a while for them in relevancy. I mean, they had a good team with Steven Montez about 3-4 years ago. They were respectable, but since then it's been just not newsworthy at all outside. It's probably the most newsworthy thing. Mel Tucker leaving for Michigan State, and now this is probably the two most newsworthy items out of Colorado football in a really long time.
All right, number 5, and this one is a long shot. I said it early in the show, but Eric Bieniemy, he's their most well-thought-of alum when it comes to coaching. He's been coaching the offense of a team that's, won a Super Bowl, been to another Super Bowl, has the best quarterback in the league and all of that. But, still, you got to think that he's holding out for an NFL job in Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, I would just love to know what the holdup is at this point. I mean, I know the easy thing to do would be to point at the color of his skin and say, well, black head coaches in the NFL don't get, the same types of shots or whatever. But, I mean, at this point, that's been so focused in on, there has to be something else to it at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had this many interviews and this many chances and to still get passed over time and time again. I would love to know, what's the piece that's missing that he's not an NFL head coach somewhere.
What would be nice to hear is if he was to say something about it, which he may not. He may
not. I don't know.
But it would be nice to hear maybe his point of view, which I've never heard, and that doesn't mean he hasn't spoken to Kansas City media or somebody on the NFL Network. But I'd like to know maybe where he sees what is missing, and maybe it's what everyone's talked about before. I don't know. I just would like to know if he would address it.
Yeah. Number 4, Troy Calhoun at Air Force. This might be one that people in Colorado like because, even though Air Force is, not breaking down the door when it comes to, group of 5 teams winning a ton of games, he's been consistent there and it's down the road, and so they maybe want him to come over there, bring some consistency, but he also, is he going to run the military school offense that he runs at Air Force?
Did he win?
He wins, but is he going to do that in the Pac-12? Yeah, I know. But most of the time, you don't run those offenses when you get the Power 5 job. So those are the things I'd be curious about. Or maybe Troy Calhoun is happy being at Air Force and being at such a great place is where he's going to stay. But there seems to be a lot of buzz around the state of Colorado about bringing him over to the state university.
Yeah, I don't think that he'd do that necessarily, what he's been doing at Air Force in Boulder. I feel like that's one of those things you kind of have to do if you're at Navy or Army or Air Force is you have to be unique and you have to run the freaking triple option or the whatever. So I don't know that would necessarily be like his bread and butter there. But yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense. I would consider him probably a top candidate for the job.
Yeah, I think so. Number 3, this one, if they want to go in their own conference and snatch a guy who's well thought of, but is at a place that you're always really going to spin your wheels and getting people to care at Cal. Look, they've proven that they'll care at Colorado, and there was some thought that he might be up for the Oregon job and Justin Wilcox, but this is someone that is in the Pac-12, will be recruiting the West Coast anyway and your area, so maybe Justin Wilcox is a fit there. I don't know. Cal seems to be content with him, but also they don't really seem to care all that much about what goes on there.
Yeah, I haven't thought about him. I don't know if I'd leave Cal for Colorado.
Yeah, I don't think he does, and I don't think contractually that it would be in his best interest either, especially with Colorado having to pay the buyout. I don't know how much they're really thinking of throwing at the next head coach. So he would probably have to take a pay cut, I would think, to take the Colorado job, unless they've got something in store that is not what I'm expecting, I guess, or kind of what the industry thinks of the job right now. He'd be a great get for them, but I just think that would be At this
That's
point, it's a long shot. And it's a downward move for him, given where he is already in the conference. Yeah.
Number 2 from the offensive coordinator files, Jeff Grimes here at Baylor, knows the West really well, is probably ready to be a head coach. Now, is being the offensive coordinator at Baylor a better job right now than being the head coach at Colorado?
No.
I mean, no. But
No.
Is it worth the headache yet to make that jump to Colorado? Depends on what they throw at you and what they can make it. But I do think that he's ready to be a head coach. And if you are, looking for a Power 5 job that fits him, I think this one is it.
It's a better job in that he can stay where he is and be really satisfied and make good money and have a recruiting hotbed around him and not have to worry for a whole lot. But that's still a Power 5 head coaching job. You know what I mean? Those just don't grow on trees. Now, I know obviously there's coaches out there, they don't take the first job that comes to them. So, in that regard, maybe where he is as OC is better than taking any job, because he could have taken some last year, I'm sure. But yeah, I would have to think if a P5 comes calling. And then again, we don't know the inner workings and the administration part of things and how the alignment, so to speak, is. I need to know more about Colorado's alignment, because that's something that a lot of coaches talk about, especially these days, and something that's obviously come into play heavily with Aranda and Baylor. So he's due. Probably not having the best run at the very moment as, when he was fresh off of last season, but he's still going to be in demand, and it seems inevitable that his time's going to come at some point.
And number 1, Bryan Harsin. Look, I had him on the Arizona State list. I've got to have him on the Colorado list. I mean, it makes sense. They're similar-ish jobs. They're not the same. They've got some similarities to them. And Bryan Harsin is a guy who's a good head coach. He's just not a good head coach at Auburn. And it's not a fit. Just let's everybody get Bryan Harsin at Auburn, get him another job, and move on so that you can, end this unfortunate marriage that, somebody thought was going to work and clearly doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think he's good.
I think Bryan Harsin would be a great hire for Colorado. I mean, it does seem like he's on the end of his rope in Auburn right now, and it's just a matter of when, not if, and I guess the timing will play into it. I mean, I don't think that Colorado's in any hurry, nor can they really be demanding to be in a hurry. So, yeah, I guess it's just a matter of when he eventually gets fired, whenever that day comes, but it certainly seems like it's not too far away at this point.
I know one thing, that with what Auburn wants to do there, you absolutely cannot have your hand in the cookie jar, because they are looking for a reason, right, to get rid of him. And so just deny everything and let your agent do whatever he wants to be doing.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
No.
If it's learned that his agent has contacted Colorado in any particular
well, that sounded way more nefarious. I was deny everything.
No,
what is he doing?
I'm just saying he does not need to be. He just needs to let things ride out.
Yeah,
he's already, they're
get
already
fired,
looking
get
for
your
a reason.
whatever money's left, and then go get the other job that you can inevitably get. Yeah.
At the same time, if he has an opportunity there and he knows he's dead at Auburn, then by all means do what you can do.
I would right now, if you're dead at Auburn and they said, have you been offered the Colorado job? I'd be like, no, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Get me out of these crazies.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Paul, great stuff. Everybody,